people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
It is so good to see you guys today. Mother's Day is one of those holidays that I think is incredibly important because often mothers do a lot of work that is kind of thankless, right? We take them for granted more than we should. Many mothers that I know are the backbones of their families, and I have no doubt that many of the people in here, many of the mothers in here, have served as that for their families. They make it through thick and thin, and a lot of times they're one of the most important reasons why their families actually make it through the thin times. They will do everything to take care of their families, often to the point of self-sacrifice. I'm not a mother myself, but I am a teacher. So I deal with a lot of mothers because a lot of times, for some reason, mothers tend to be my first point of contact whenever I'm talking to them about children. They take on all sorts of responsibility, and a lot of times, and you guys know this, there isn't a good handbook on what you're supposed to do. I mean, I know we've got all these pages and pages of books, but really when it comes down to it, the secrets of being a good mother often aren't actually found in those books, are they? A lot of times you make a mistake and then you make it right. A lot of times you do your best. Sometimes the mothers that I've seen, they don't have the tools and the skills to be able to make the best choices for their children. I've seen that, and sometimes they face their own personal demons that weigh them down. However, what I've observed is that 99% of all mothers that I've been exposed to, even those that I sometimes come into conflict with, 99% of them truly and deeply and honestly want the best for their children that can be. They do the absolute best they can with what they've been given. And they want their children to thrive, no questions asked. There are a lot of things I can say about mothers. I have an amazing mother. I have awesome grandmothers. My sister-in-law is an amazing mother herself. And mothers do so many things, I don't think that I could, there's no way that I could say everything that they do. But I want to turn to our passage today and draw out a few of the qualities that I think are worth highlighting. Our story today is a pretty familiar story, right? It's one of my favorites. It's Jesus' first miracle in the Gospel of John. And my parents and I were fortunate enough to be able to go to Israel during 2020, like right before the pandemic, literally right before the pandemic. And we actually got to go to Cana. We got to see, they have these big jars that are about taller than EJ that actually held all of that water. Taller than you. Can you imagine a stone jar taller than you that holds a bunch of water? And this scene that we're looking at today, I think is really important because it shows us a glimpse of Jesus and his mother's relationship, revealing something about each of their characters. Weddings in Jesus' day, you may or may not know, didn't just happen one afternoon. It's like right now, when my brother got married up in Washington, we had this amazing reception afterwards with dancing and food and drinks and pictures and celebrations. It was amazing. Well, in Jesus' day and age, that celebration lasted for days. And for days, the family was expected to be providing the refreshments, be providing the wine. If the wine ran out, it would be really kind of embarrassing to the family. And so when the wine ran out, Mary was one of the first to notice. And it wasn't her responsibility. As far as we know, she may have been related to the people. Often in that day and age, a lot of people were related to everybody else that was even close to them. And for them to travel to a wedding in Cana, probably they either knew or were related to them in some way. But it wasn't really her responsibility to make sure that people have wine. But like many mothers, that wasn't what was important. People had a need. And so she acted as intercessor. Intercessor. Are you familiar with that word? It basically means someone who sees that there is a problem. Somebody isn't able to do something themselves, and so they act as intercessor. They are the go-between between that person and the person who can help that person get things done. That's how Mary acted. And in a lot of ways, for many people in our world, that is exactly who Mary is now. They talk to Mary because she is known to intercede on behalf of the people of God. Mothers will often act as intercessors, sometimes for their own children, but just as often for anybody who is vulnerable, because they have the gift to see the need and they try to find a way to fill it. Even when we're a rough spot because of our own actions or inactions, like that family probably should have had enough set aside to be able to take care of everybody, right? But even when it's our own fault, a lot of times a mother will, sometimes they remind us it's our own fault, but they still intercede for us so that we can recover. In this way, they reflect the love that God has for us. God knows when we are in need and knows what we need even more than we do, even more than our mothers do. And like Mary here, God isn't willing to just leave us in our own messes, but reaches out a hand to create a way for things to be made right again. For Mary, who knew exactly who her son was, it didn't even involve making a request. It just required a simple observation. They don't have any wine. Now, I am pretty sure that Jesus was just as observative as observant. Finding words is hard sometimes. Jesus was just as observant as Mary. He probably already knew this. It wasn't news to him, the fact that they didn't have any wine. And, a lot of people have sat and looked at this interaction here at the wedding in Cana. I've read several commentators, one including some guy who had this very lofty interpretation that when Jesus called her woman, that he was referencing Eve and saying that Mary was basically stepping in and acting as Eve should have acted. And I'm sure that that is great. But when I look at this interaction between Jesus and his mother, I see something a lot more mundane than that. I see the kind of interaction that I've seen many times before, countless times. I can just see Mary walking over to him, knowing that he probably knew exactly what she knew. But at that point, he wasn't really about to act to fix things. He was probably thinking, maybe not. If nobody says anything, was there even a reason for him to act? He was just one of many guests at the wedding, after all. But Mary knew that he was something more. And she knew that all he had to do was make it clear that she knew what he knew. Someone was in need, and he had the power to do something about it. All she needed to do was give him a little push. Mothers do that, don't they? Sometimes they just give us that little push, and sometimes it is very frustrating. Sometimes it's downright aggravating. But mothers remind us of who we are, and they act as our guides, reminding us of what is truly important and keeping us grounded. Now, that's not to say that mothers always understand everything or can read their children's head, right? I'm reminded of when Jesus was 12 and, they went to Jerusalem and Jesus got so invested in all of the discussions and the theology and the things that the rabbis were talking about at the temple that he didn't go when they were supposed to go home. And so Mary and Joseph were like, where's Jesus? And were frantically going back and looking for him. And finally, they found him in the temple. And Mary was like, son, why have you treated us like this? Your father and I have been anxiously searching for you. And he's just sitting there as a 12-year-old, and I know some 12-year-olds, so I know this, I can see this. Well, why were you searching for me? He asked. Didn't you know that I had to be in my father's house? But they did not understand what he was saying to them. It was confusing. Jesus was confusing. Parenting is overwhelming sometimes, even at the best of times, right? But could you imagine being the parent of Jesus? Being the mother of the living God? That had to have been a lot. But even in that situation, even with Jesus, the living God, Mary was still the parent. And she had the character and the strength to be the mother of the living God. She was the human parent of this child that was both holy God, but also wholly human. And she helped him make sure that he didn't lose touch with that humanity. It's really easy, and speaking to as someone who has been to seminary and who loves getting into these discussions, it's really easy to sometimes get lost in the head stuff of spirituality. The discussions, the philosophy, the questions, the debates, and all of that stuff is very important. It's life-giving. It reminds us of something essential about our nature that sometimes gets lost in the day-to-day humdrum trials and tribulations of the world. But at the same time, this is not some dichotomy where the spiritual stuff is over here and the mundane stuff is over here. The mundane is as sacred as any philosophy or theology. Everyday stuff, washing dishes, is just as sacred as any other work that we will do in this world. Trying to keep spirituality and the world, the mundane, separate is a big part of what leads us into all sorts of problems, and Mary knew that. When she told Jesus that they had run out of wine, Jesus replies, "Woman, what does that have to do with me? My time hasn't come yet." What did that have to do with him? Everything. Because the kingdom of God isn't just about philosophy and theology. It's about community. It's about connection. It's about celebration. It's about everyday people and giving them the chance to be transformed into the state that their limitations often place them in. It's about us coming together and making the impossible possible through the power of our living God. Taking the water, the basic stuff that lets us keep on living, and turning it into wine, turning our lives into something better, something that is full of everything that we are capable of. God knows this. God is constantly guiding us and pushing us and trying to get us to see in a myriad of ways how we need to be acting, what will give us life. And often so do our mothers. There are only 3 lines of conversation between Mary and Jesus in this. Technically, Mary's last line isn't even to Jesus, it's to the servants, so I am pretty sure that Jesus was hearing what she was saying. In my head, though, I think there's something that might not have been written down in the text. Like, the look. You know the look? You know the look. So I think it went something like this. Mary walks up to him and says, "They don't have any wine." And Jesus is like, "Woman, what does that have to do with me? My time hasn't come yet." And then I'm pretty sure came the look. No rebuttal, no argument, because it wasn't needed. She didn't need to tell him a thing. She knew that he knew. And he knew that she knew that he knew. And she didn't need to tell him another word. She made her expectations very clear and trusted that he would meet them. And he did. Instead, she spoke to the servants. Do whatever he tells you. Mothers act as intercessors, bringing people's needs to the ones they know can meet them. Mothers act as guides, reminding us of what we need to do. And mothers act as heralds, telling the world what their children are capable of and breathing out that truth, a little bit like how the Word of God spoke into the void and shaped all of the things that came into being. Mary knew her son. Even when he was still in the womb, she had told the world exactly who was coming. My soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Savior, for he has looked with favor on the lowliness of his servant. Surely from now on all generations will call me blessed, for the Mighty One has done great things for me, and holy is his name. His mercy is for all of those who fear him, from generation to generation. He has shown strength with his arm. He has scattered the proud in the thoughts of their hearts. He has brought down the powerful from their thrones and lifted up the lowly. He has filled the hungry with good things. We're going to get some of that in a little bit, right? Filled the hungry with good things and sent the rich away empty. He has helped his servant Israel in remembrance of his mercy and according to the promises that he made to our ancestors, to Abraham and his descendants forever. Mary knew this. The promises would come true. The world would change. Mary's son, God's son, would come, and the world, we, would never be the same. Mothers, you see, are not just passive caretakers, feeding and cleaning and picking up after their children. Mothers are the ones who know some of the ugliest truths that the world has to offer. They know some of the deepest needs. When my niece was born and I held her in my arms, it made even more crystal clear how important it was to work to make the world better for her, to do what I could to help create a world where hopefully she wouldn't have to deal with some of the things that I have had to deal with. But I also saw in her the seeds of something extraordinary. I see it in these 3 young men who sit amongst us today, the seeds of something that can change the world. I see it in my students when I look at them, even the ones that exasperate me sometimes. I see how incredible they are, and I'm not even their mother. Thankfully, I get to send them back. It's almost summertime, give me some slack. But I would speak the truth of what all of these children are capable of over them and to the world, and pave the way as much as I can for them to be able to reach that greatness, that the world might be ready for what's coming in them. And that is exactly what Mary did. She turned to the servants. She didn't say, oh, he'll fix it. She didn't say, he'll make everything all right. But she told them this: do whatever he tells you. Take the chance. Act. Don't ignore him. Follow what he commands and things will get better, even if you don't understand why you're supposed to be doing this. Something extraordinary will come if you take the chance. And so they did. Nearby were 6 stone water jars used for the Jewish cleansing ritual, each able to hold about 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water," and they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Now draw some from them and take it to the head waiter." And they did, and the head waiter tasted the water that had become wine. He didn't know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. The head waiter called to the groom and said, "Everyone serves the good wine first. They bring out the second-rate wine only when the guests are drinking freely. You kept the good wine until now." This was the first miraculous sign that Jesus did in Cana of Galilee. He revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. Mary didn't perform the miracle at Cana. Mary didn't force Jesus to act. Instead, Mary just acted as his mother. She interceded, she guided, and she acted as herald. And she acts as Jesus' herald today. The last thing that Mary says in the Bible is said here in this passage in Cana. And yes, she said it to the servants of the family at the wedding, but maybe, just maybe, she didn't say it just to them. Maybe she's still saying it to Jesus' servants today. Do whatever he tells you. If you follow Jesus and obey his commandments, an extraordinary transformation will take place. In the spaces where it seems like everything is running out, everything is limited, God can transform something that seems mundane and ordinary, like everyday water, into something extraordinary and life-giving. Jesus can connect us to each other. Jesus can change us into something amazing because Jesus knows exactly what we're capable of. After all, he was the one who breathed out the fullness of our possibility at our very creation. All we have to do is believe and do whatever he tells us, just like his mama reminds us. May we go and do.